Hi and welcome everyone. It's Lavender Sky Panther with you on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, with a fun little card reading today. It just seemed about that time again, and I was also prompted because we've had quite a drought here where I'm at for a while, and suddenly I heard the rumblings of, thunder, and then we had lightning warnings. We actually have physical lightning warnings. There's a system somewhere around, I guess, a couple miles away called Thorgard, and it starts blaring like a semi-truck horn when lightning is going to be in the area. I forget the range. When the horns go off, it means the lightning's going to be pretty close. I think within 3 miles. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, point is, it was just, let's just say, a special day, which also prompted me to do this. Special in that rain is welcomed. Everything's really dry out there, so it's just life-giving and totally welcome for the grass and the plants and the animals and everything else. So, all right, on that positive note about thunderstorms and rain, let's get into this reading. Now, you'll see that I've got 4 groups, and, the instant tendency is to say, oh, pick a group. Well, in this case, I invite you to pick 1, 2, 3, or all 4 if you like, however you're moved to do so. And I am also pairing them with different fruits. It just seemed like that's what wanted to happen. Now, keep in mind, even if you select one group only, as I move through the reading, I might jump across piles, cross-reference things. So if you can and have the time and are interested, you might want to hang around through the total reading and just see what messages in each specific group kind of pop out to you, or just stick with your group. I'll divide it up in the description area below to reflect the individual groups if that's all you're going for, and otherwise let's see what we get. Now let's do this. Okay, if you like group 1, that's going to be the orange slices, or tangerine, or tangelo, whatever whatever you want to see that as. Then group 2 has an apple slice, red apple with a watermelon slice behind it. Group 3 is a lemon and a lime slice, and group 4 is a kiwi fruit slice with a red strawberry. Now I'm going to zoom out just to show you where we're headed on this reading. If you've watched any of my shows before with card readings, thank you and welcome back. If you're new, a big heartfelt thanks and welcome. Thanks for stopping by here. Now, if you have seen this though before, you know that I like to change it up with each reading, change up the settings, change up the cards if I can, and it's just all gone by, I go by, intuition, go as I'm guided to set this stuff up. Also, the card spread itself changes often, just as I'm guided, so I'm kind of very free-spirited that way, and like to keep it creative and fresh. For me personally, that's just how I do it. Now, it might be a mixture of tarot cards or oracle cards. I won't read the tarot in a traditional way, more than likely. I may draw off some references from the traditional meanings, but I just go really mostly and solely by intuition on this stuff. Okay, so that being said, in this spread today, the way it's organized is we're going to start off with your main cards. We're going to have a little clarifier card to it at the bottom, and then we have a little bonus card for your group. And if I can remember, I'm going to move that candle to track with each specific group, okay? All right, well, let's get into it. Zoom here one more time, make your selection. Oranges, apples, lemons, limes, kiwi fruit, and strawberry. All right, you ready? Let's get into it. All right, so group 1, give me one moment. Let's move your little candle. Here we go. All right. Now, we're looking at this glorious, I guess it's a buck, like a male version of the deer. And I right off the start want to say, also, pardon if you see any glare on the cards. I can't move the lighting right now. But I just want to say to not look at this as like a trophy prize hanging on the wall from a hunter. That's not what I'm getting off this at all. If anything, try to see it, if you will, with me as the deer's just pushing his head through like a disc, and that the body's intact and the deer is fine. And if I say deer, just go with me. It's just going to be the generic term referring to whether it's male or female. I don't care at the moment, although we see the antlers, so we know it's going to be the male form. But anyway, I'm looking, what's really drawing my attention once we get past that is this glorious ring of foliage around the deer. And it's almost like, to me, it's just reminding me of a haku is the word for a floral crown sorry, I'm having a little trouble speaking today, in the Hawaiian culture. And it goes by many names. In Germany, I believe it's Blumenkranz, meaning, a ring of of or a crown of flowers. So that's what really pulls my attention, especially the violets, purples, and pinks in there, in contrast with the beautiful various shades of green. That's right away. Of course, I know we always talk about the colors aligned with the chakras, but it's just going to jump out at me and ask me to talk about that. So those, of course, are the pink and greens, refer to the heart chakra. And there's one color below and one above, and I believe it's pink below and green above. You might want to check that, double check me. But anyway, that's what's really jumping out at me. So this is a very heart-centered card. The deer is centered itself, deer itself is centered in the card. And we've got like this gold pattern, or green gold, radiating around the entire thing. So at the center of this is love. It's, there's a softness to this deer. You look at the eyes, they're a very heart-based animal. If you encounter them in the wild especially, there's just a beautiful vibe associated with this glorious animal. And anyway, the message here is number 2, protect your boundaries. And say it again, I'll put it in the description area below. If you're into numbers, I highly recommend you look at an Australian blog site called Joann Sacred Scribes, Angel Numbers, and she'll give you all of the positive aspects of the meanings of a number that you type in. So in this case, you want to look up 2, just type 2 in. It can be any number of digits, and it will give you those meanings. Anyway, we're looking back. So protect your boundaries is what this message is. Now, in this case, not only does the deer obviously show protection with the antlers, but we've also got the circle. And in a lot of like magical, mystical things, wisdoms, a circle is involved. The circle symbolizes protection. So sometimes, like a candle might be put in the center, or stones, or you can even make the circle out of anything with chalk, whatever. And it's just basically sending a signal and spiritually that, it's making a circle of protection with intention. So in this case, I feel like it's like a message of you've got double protection coming from within yourself, and from the spiritual realm with the flowers, around you, and even nature protecting you if you set that as your intention, if you believe in yourself and stand strong in yourself. This is some kind of a message of gentle power. You can be powerful without being, outlandish and, what I want to say, like exaggerated and, kind of yelling or anything. No, gentle power doesn't need any words to be powerful. You can feel it when it's in the room, and that's kind of what this message is. So anyway, this is just a nice little friendly reminder to protect your boundaries, and that's especially with probably the people who are closest to you, people you trust, your family and friends. Sometimes you'll see kind of in this, if you're on a spiritual walk, and I believe you are if you found this channel, things seem one way to be moving along fine, but then at different stages of spiritual growth, things can change. So really get good at reading the room. I feel like this deer is kind of presiding over a room. If we look back to, it is like up in a higher, loftier place. Again, not as a trophy prize, but has like command, maybe standing on a cliff, overlooking things. Just seems to command a presence that it's higher up, physically, and has a good vantage point to look over things. So get good at reading the room, and even if you've had a trusted friend or family member forever, but they're acting strange or seem to flip their behavior, just remember for you too to just directly and swiftly connect in on your heart space and your inner wisdoms and kind of stand your ground if you need to, even if you're kind of surprised by their behavior, okay? Now also we have a card below it for clarifying. Gorgeous card. It's fall, so we've got autumn leaves, but they're still on the branches. They have not fallen. Some of the smaller ones are falling, but also stars are falling. Falling stars, but in a good sense. They're like not shooting stars, but just kind of falling over like a shower of beautiful stars and good luck and fortune coming your way. And that may be the change. That may be the change that if you have always acted a certain way around family, especially family and friends, if they have not been loving and supportive, but you just were kind of in it because you're like, well, it's family, I guess I have to put up with it. Especially if you're like the, excuse me, the black sheep or the starseed or whatever you want to call it, the one that woke up first spiritually. You tend to be maybe a scapegoat, or things are put on you and blamed on you or misunderstood or not appreciated. If you're that one, it's just saying that, okay, well, if you change your behavior in those settings and kind of like really wake up again, if you're already awakened, and look around you and say, hey, that's my family, yeah, but the behavior is not correct. Well, make a change in how you deal with that when you're in the room. So that might be just being extra quiet and observing more and not saying as much, and then standing in your power and shining out your light like the star that you are, and then the change will come. And then you may start to see a falling away, like these leaves of friends and family that you thought, well, hey, by association, I've known them forever, they should still be in my life. Well, some might start to peel off, so to speak. Some of your family and friends, if you're doing a spiritual walk and with intention, consciously aware that you've awakened, especially, we're entering times where anything less than, anything that's not going to serve you or even support you on your path forward, it's going to probably need to fall away. And you're going to have to accept that change and be okay with it for you to, grow. So try to embrace it. As I always like to say, when I can work it in on a reading, if I can, if it seems like it wants to come out, just say to yourself, it's happening for me, not to me. Any of the changes, any seeming adverse situations, it's happening for me, not to me. And then things do flip around in your outer world, like this ring. This outer ring is radiating and glorious with like a green gold color. Once you get into that headspace, headspace here, and say it's happening for me, not to me, all of your outer world starts to change and support you to reflect that what could have been perceived as seemingly adverse flips around to be very positive. Okay, now let's go up and see what your bonus card is and see if there's any other overall meaning or clarification here. And I'm hoping not to knock down this whole display. Give me a moment. And we don't want to set anything on fire either. Although maybe you want to set the world on fire. Maybe that's the kind of change. You need the fire under your ass, so to speak, to really change things up and light things up, light up the room even more. Maybe that's another little message. All right, so here we have the sun, more light and sunshine, a beautiful opening lotus flower. We have the hands holding it almost in prayer, although they really are like life-giving, the hands. Life is springing out from them. Kind of reminds me, too, maybe a message of the laying of the hands. Maybe some of the change as you grow in your spiritual journey, you're going to notice you're going to be activated out of nowhere with gifts you didn't know you had. One of them might be physically healing with your hands in a certain situation, especially if with intention you call down love to be with you in the room to help heal. That happened to me suddenly out of nowhere about 2 years ago. The gold cuffs on each hand are bracelets. I think those are, I don't know if it's a snake pattern or whatever. Snake would be life or fertility. Also change, transformation. But the gold cuffs kind of reminded me that, we have the power of transforming things into gold, our own personal alchemy. And it doesn't have to be real physical gold, but golden, light, frequency, healing. That's what I get out of this card. Now, this disc, it's implied sun above here, also has foliage at the rim, much like the card below, number 2, protect your boundaries. So I just have a feeling here that lotus is representing your heart space, and it's an unfolding of ever-expanding love and brilliance, and that if you can tap into that, it's protected. It's got like this translucent bubble around it. That's a little force field, the aura that precedes you, and you are always protected if you just go back into the center. These hands are pointed up, like to receive energy down and bring them up. And so anyway, it's like, as you give out life and help create life, you can also bring that life, channel it back into your heart space. So anyway, it's a beautiful card. And again, we have the stars at the bottom, the golden stars on the blue background, and the foliage. So these really tie in together. So if I'm going to come back down for a moment, I think it's very much about being centered in yourself and your gentle power, and expect, beautiful miracles and things to blossom and burgeon out from that. Once you do that, you're going to have change, conscious change, one, to protect your boundaries change, but also to bring in magnificence, to bring in gifts. These, I think, also represent, these stars are representing sudden activation of some glorious gifts that you never knew you had, the ones directly connected in with the divine. And that's, summed up, and, it's like the little period on that, because we come up here, and it's actually like exclamation point that that's the case, because this is echoing and reinforcing that these are the surprise, sudden, golden, beautiful, glorious, miraculous activations you might be receiving in the coming, like now, or days, And I believe you're going to wake up one day and feel it. Now, I didn't get to the very bottom. It says number 5, offer up gratitude. All of this comes in and aligns beautifully also when we give thanks. And so if you can remember in the morning, especially these little flowers at the bottom remind me of like daytime flowers, luck and good fortune in the daytime, and more connected with the 3D earth. When you wake up each morning, as that's, reminding me too with a little sun at the top, just remember, even if you're not feeling in a good space, head space, heart space, whatever, head or heart space, whatever, if you're just not feeling quite aligned, if you go ahead and offer up gratitude and just say thank you, thank you, thank you, and you can just say thank you, God, thank you, Jesus, thank you, whoever, your angelic team. You can just keep it as a generic thank you to something greater that you can't define with a word or name. That's loving and kind, and you can just say in general, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you that you woke up today. Thank you for everything in the right now, and thank you for the glorious and beautiful things of the past and also the ones to come. And that will set that intention. Offering up gratitude will help really things align. Now, number 5 is said to be the number of change, and so anyway, to me, that just shows that this particular group is working up and down, up to the middle and down, and also, number 5, change all the way back up, so it's one nice, beautiful sentence, and it's connected, and I hope you are too. Okay, well, that's group 1, and now we're going to move on to group 2. Okay, hello, group 2. Now, we're going to get into your reading. Now, we're going to start off moving down slowly. And the first card we have is a lot of colors. You've got reds, oranges, white, brilliant white and gold. And we move into indigos and purples. And the thing that's interesting is this could be light energy, light forms. It kind of moves into feathers. And, don't be thrown off by the description here on this one. I want to say that number 7, go ahead and look at Joann's Sacred Scribes Angel Numbers blog site, Australian blog site, for the positive aspects of the numbers. And here we have Blood Angel. Now, I know at least in my culture in the West, in the U.S., people kind of, shy away from blood, or it's, people can like physically get squeamish if you see blood in the hospital. If that's you, I'm just going to mention the word blood, so if it makes you uncomfortable, you might want to pick a different pile. But I want to focus on the positive aspect of blood. It is our life force. I looked it up just to see. I know we replicate cells, we regenerate so many cells in our body. Blood cells alone, it says it's almost like 240 billion cells are generated each day in the human body. So, my gosh, this is a card of absolute abundance, if nothing else, to know that that's the kind of supply each of us generate without even thinking about it. Now, as we know, blood is life force, flows through our entire body. This might be an invitation to really get in and root around and research. It can just be simple internet searches, but just to really get you inspired about what we contain within ourselves. At the very heart of us is this God spark. To me, that's what's, showing there. And then all that our body gives and delivers for us every single day. I talked about in group 1, there was the card that says, offer up gratitude. And really, this is what, this is reminding me too, my gosh, we should just be thankful every day we wake up in the morning and just say, my gosh, thank you, even just how miraculous my body is. Now, forget about what shape it is. If you want it thinner, heavier, thicker, stronger, weaker, whatever you want, forget about the physicality of that. Just remember what's going on the inside is a whole world of miracles happening in there, and we each possess those every single moment. So I don't want to look at any other message for Blood Angel other than just saying, maybe we just, give that gratitude to our higher self, thanking our own body, thanking, the all that is, whether you want to refer to it as God or Jesus or your angel team or whatever. So many names for love, the all that is, the greater power, and creator, source, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, this is just, to me, just screaming out, it's the meanings behind it are creation, abundance, beautiful life, and ever expanding life. Now, I also kind of want to turn it sideways. I'm just feeling to turn it sideways and looking at it in a new perspective. So this also might be another little message to look at things in a different way. and in a positive way, as a part of creation and being creative. So in this case, what I start to see, and especially in light, no pun intended, well I guess it is a pun intended, of recent solar flare events and CMEs and all of that, coronal mass ejections, and with the northern lights going on around the world, I see this too as, I gotta switch hands on this camera. Like looking at this room, to me, like this is the sun, right? And in my point of view, since we're looking at this in perspective, and it's also just an inner knowing from my own personal inner knowing, the sun is a portal. And I've known that ever since as a kid. I just felt that strongly. So this, is just reminding me of the God spark, and also like the portal, the center of the portal where things come through. Love comes and goes out of this, the center of the sun. Anything not of love, I think, comes, somewhere, from somewhere else. But anyway, this just kind of reminds me of some of the ejections and things. And, I want to say that, there's no gloom and doom with the CMEs or sunspots or what's facing the earth or what could blast it. I have, my inner knowing is that any of these things that are happening are for the upgrading and are all a part of the ascension of our planet. Our collective consciousness is calling in. It's, time to get rid of all the negativity. No more killing, no more harming, people of all ages on this planet. It's just done. I think a lot of this, especially if you're waking up or awakened and you've always known it your whole life, you've just wanted to see a loving planet, all the negativity. I won't even personally watch negative movies. I never could as a kid. I just don't want that. Mainly because I have a very visual, you may too, have a very visual mind, your imagination, like a photographic memory type thing. Things really stick. I don't want that in my memory bank. I don't want that anywhere in my system. So anyway, this is a call to just know that anything happening with the sun, it's life-giving force. And just like, the card talking about the blood, it's all life-generating. It's infinite. It's generating infinite rays. And those rays are going to, modulate and change a bit and become a little stronger, a little weaker. We'll see if our magnetosphere, however that's holding up, if it's meant to thin out, then it's meant to thin out. And again, much like the first group, I said, one of the key messages coming through, and I love it when it can come through whenever it can, is it's happening for me, not to me. So if you look at anything surrounding the sun as it's happening for me, not to me, then that is the picture you're going to receive. You're going to receive, beautiful things coming off of these ejections and not negative ones, okay? Now we're going to go down to a clarifier card, and you have true love. And what I want to say here is it's kind of the message of to thine own self be true, flipping this back to the, regeneration and rejuvenation, the blood in the body and the life force. It's just kind of a call again to love yourself, love your own body, and especially all the wonders that it gives and delivers us to us every single day, the stuff we don't see going on the inside, because the true love is your innermost self. And from that, once you love yourself in totality, then the outside flourishes and is even more magnificent, because it all starts at the core. That love, like the core, like the apple core, right? That's the heart of everything. Even with the apple itself, if you look at the shape, in the slice, if you take the movement, everything comes around and back up into the very center of it, right? All right, so let's see what your little bonus card is here up here. Actually, it's kind of a big card. And let's see what we get if I don't tear down this little background set or put a card on fire, although this is a very fiery energy here. All right, we have red is the theme here, but also with blasts of like, look at the candlelight here in the foreground. It's like the, candlelight. It's like a big blast or spark or orb of light. A lot of energy moving on. And what does this say? I got to move in a little. Sorry about the camera work. Passion of the wild red mother. Okay. Well, we have an undeniable red theme that almost could be an abstraction of looking within an artery or within the blood, within the body as it pulses and pumps through. Very vibrant. And again, life force, the mother, creating life. Kind of like the capability of the womb and creating actual, person. Another little God spark has to come in. And that mother, the body nurtures that. So maybe this is a call to get in touch with your innermost feminine and the power of creation. So it doesn't matter if you're an actual male or female watching this. Get in touch with the power of creation. Know that it's limitless. Know that we're going to have bursts of creativity like in this card. But then there might be times like in the upper left where it kind of subdues and dies down a bit. This very much ties back into the whole talk I just gave about the CMEs and the sunspots and the solar flares on the middle card. So I think it's also too just like a little extra awareness to be in touch with what's going on around us, especially with the solar activity. Maybe you want to, if you have never really had an active interest in it, maybe this is your call this week to start tracking. There's tons of sites out there to monitor and look at, what classes of the CMEs are going on. What level. I think there's C, M, and X or something for extreme, but have a look around. Get to know what different people are looking at and how they're trying to predict whether they'll be stronger or lighter, or when you can see the aurora borealis or the northern lights or not off of these things. It's very much on the mind and coming to the fore, especially through this card, through this group. Okay, and again, with that creativity and looking around, just find what your true love and true passion is as you look around, and let that grow in your life too. This is a call to maybe do something to reactivate yourself. In the first group, it was about you might have sudden activations happening, which might happen to you too. You might wake up and find out suddenly you have extra skills like extra really good hearing or eyesight, or you might have healing in the hands. That came up in the first group. But just know that might, wake you up a bit from the outside, but this also might be an inside job to really maybe dedicate this week, to yourself and finding those extra creative passions. If you say, I have none, before you go to bed, before you fall asleep, close your eyes and just ask. Say, hey, pray, do a little prayer to the higher, all there is, creator, source, God, Jesus, whatever you want. And just say, hey, kindly show me what might be my passion. I just can't feel it. Some of us are in a place where you just might not know or feel it. Ask for it. Just say, kindly guide me and show me in my dreams, and let me remember it when I wake up, what that is. And then take that as your guide, or show me a little sign that might move me and connect me with something that really literally lights me up. Okay? All right. Well, that is group number 2. Now we're going to move on to group 3. Okay, group 3. We're going to get into your reading. And it's a beautiful card. And it says, work of art, be the portrait of divine beauty. And this is actually a very gorgeous card. We see, again, don't worry if you're male or female watching this. This is just embodying the spirit of the divine. I would say the divine feminine energy kind of just was related to group 2. Divine feminine energy, which is also the energy and power of creation. So she's holding her stomach. It looks like she may be pregnant or expecting. We have beautiful rays of light, divine light, shining on the source of another life, which has the divine spark within it. It would be the life that she's creating. But I love also how she just melds into the landscape. So it almost looks like Scottish mountains and fields in the foreground in her gown, becoming very connected to earth. So it's very much like a Mother Earth, kind of energy too. So definitely powerfully divine feminine in that of creation. Okay. Now she's also receiving the divine light, coming in, which, more than just, we have the power within to create, and sometimes we need the power joining up with others. So you can create your own work of art, like I guess the message was, be the portrait of divine beauty in and of yourself. But I think it's also an invitation to, on this particular work of art, do so with collaboration. So we all know we can create our own stuff. And maybe this one is talking about the power of maybe teaming up and collaborating with others, or with kind of a like-minded, and more than that, a like-spirited point of view, all right, to create something really special. And maybe it's also a little question. She's got her hand there, to accept graciously a helping hand. Maybe you're used to doing everything on your own and creating works of art. This might be time to receive joyfully and gracefully a helping hand. Okay, now we're going to look at, we've got golden stars, which we also had in group 1. Abundance, and we've got more fruit. So the golden yellows and greens, you know, draw my attention. It's a very happy and positive card, which relate directly actually to the fruit for this pile, you know, the greens and golds there too. So maybe it's just a simple invitation to you know, make a fruit smoothie or do some green juicing and, you know, create a work of art that way with a culinary thing, you know, so to speak. And go ahead and select things. You've got the world as your palette to draw from, all the different colors, beautiful colors in here. And go ahead. Maybe you want to do like, this is reminding me of like a blueberry and mint smoothie or something, literally using the lemon and limes and the pears down here. And actually the stars in this case, because we've got a heavy fruit theme, also kind of remind me of star fruit. Maybe you want to explore and try that if you're not familiar with it. It's also called carambola in Spanish. All right, well, let's see what else might want to come through message-wise. We'll move back on up. And, oh, one other little mini message, too, because I'm just coming off of the heels of Group 2, which was very solar flare and northern lights and everything intensive. This is reminding me, too, like in Group 2, you might want to hop over there. And maybe a little message, too. Maybe start following what's going on with the sun a little more closely and how that ties into spiritually what's going on with the ascension of our planet and how some of these solar flares and CMEs, coronal mass ejections, are probably positive things bringing in cosmic light codes, you know, which are benefiting the ascension process of our planet spiritually too. Okay. Now we're going to move up to your bonus card. Let's see what's going on here. Beautiful colors. And as I say with each pile, I'm trying not to knock down the little set here, nor catch the card on fire as I do this. It's a little candle here, but I already feel the flame way up here. Okay. All right. Ooh, this is really beautiful. Let's see what we've got going on. This actually really reminds me a lot of the energy of Group 2, if you want to check that out also. This says, let's see, I've got to come in pretty close on this to read the bottom print if I can. Yeah, here we go. Slow down to relax, break to enjoy the beauty around you. And that's with an exclamation point. So I'm going to repeat that. Slow down to relax, break to enjoy the beauty around you. So it's kind of a funny message because we've got a very calm, slow down, and then, hey, break and enjoy the beauty. So yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward, right? So if there's any way that you can relax today out in nature, that's your invitation if you're not doing it already. Now, the reason why this reminds me of Group 2 is we look at the center of this, and like Group 2, it also has kind of swirling pattern around a bright center. In this case, it's very fiery energy, and that reminds me of the spark of life in the middle. In this case, it's almost like reminding me of looking down into a pool of water swirling down, where usually the center would be dark, but in this case, it's light. So maybe it's, and even these are like bubbles, it reminds me of going down, you know, into water. And so, or even maybe down into like an inner earth type thing. So in this case, the card also, another message is coming through, is to kind of expect the unexpected in a good way. Again, we would expect swirling down would be dark, not light, but we're seeing the opposite. Maybe it's also a matter of changing your point of view. Like I did in Group 2, I actually turned the card sideways. I was drawn to do that. Here I'm not, but here the change in point of view is, are you looking down on a swirling pool, like a little whirlpool, or are you already underwater and looking up and something is swirling above you to draw you up to the surface and you're looking at the sunlight? So maybe you're not sure where you are in that scenario. Maybe you feel like the bubbles in the darkness and you're just kind of sitting there and you don't know what's going on. So this card is asking you to pick a point of view. So are you under the water and being shot up and propelled upward with the bubbles that are rising up to the sun? Or do you feel like you are already looking down on a situation from an omniscient point of view, like a bigger picture point of view, and kind of studying your options, you know, and focusing on the light and the positive side of it, okay? Just some things to think about. But regardless, it's showing to slow down. So whether you think you do or not, you need to create the time maybe to just slow down and take a break. I know that with talking about the ascension of the planet and the spiritual kind of war that we're in, and we're in a process of ascending, to choose the more positive way overall is what the collective is doing. We're choosing the love way, the path of love, the path of loving light. We don't want the darkness and negativity anymore. So maybe that is, you know, what you're looking at. Or maybe you're just observing the overall scene, the light and the darkness. Whatever the case, or you're trying to find your balance. Whatever the case, it's the call to slow down Now, in other things that I've been looking at, it is said, I don't know if it was the Hopi prophecy or just one of the messages from the Hopi elders in the 70s, I believe, or if it was more from the more ancient prophecy. But the point is, some of the teachings of the Hopi people, supposedly, just from what I can find, again, if you have clarification out there, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. But there was a quote or a line by one of the Hopi elders saying that in these days where we are going through major transitions and changes that we've never experienced before, you can liken it to Revelations in the Bible if you're tracking with that. But the point is, we're in an undeniable, very impactful change like we've never had before on the planet. If you look at the kind of the seeming chaos going on around us these days, have not been in my lifetime until now. But the point is, from some of those messages from the Hopi elders was, when time seems to be speeding up, which I don't know about you, but I've checked with people older than me, my age, younger than me, young kids, everybody's agreeing that time is flying. Time is really swirling and speeding up. So the message in there was, when time is speeding up, you yourself slow down. So time is very illusory. Time is an illusion. We know this because when we're actively engaged in play, time seems like it can fly by, or you're engaged in activity, you just love it, and you just want the time to freeze and stay there forever while you're doing it. Time can seem to go on forever if you're not having fun, and you just want to get out of a situation, and you're like, is it ever going to end? So time is kind of like a slippery slope, right? So we have control over that too. We can determine with intention that we're going to slow down. The world can spin around us. This is very much reminding me of, and I've talked about it before on different videos, that the more that the world swirls around, it seems to be getting crazy around us, we can be the eye of the storm. This is also reminding me of a hurricane energy that's just sticking around. But we can be in the center, we can be in the eye of the storm where it's totally peaceful, blue skies, birds are flying around like nothing, like any day, any beautiful blue sunny sky day, where the rest of us is turbulent. Everything around you swirling around is turbulent, but you can be fine. And the more you hold that center of the storm energy, slowly, and you do like group number one, you say in your mind out loud, or in your mind, it's happening for me, not to me, whatever the seeming chaos that starts to appear, then you start to anchor the scene and the reality, and then everything else starts to calm down around you, and things will gravitate toward the higher frequency eventually. So that's why it's important to stay focused on the light if you want. But again, you might be in the stage of looking at this the other way, but whatever the case, it's just a call to maybe kind of see where you're at when you look at this card. How are you looking at things? Okay? And no matter what you do, no matter what you choose, you can't get it wrong. We're just here to have experiences and, and actually just to be the portrait of divine beauty. And I would just say to be divine beauty. Just by being here, each one of us is a work of art. And just like art, we're each individual and unique. And that is what powers this planet. That is the spark of life here, and creating each of our own experiences is what keeps this world going and keeps the picture even more beautiful. Okay? All right, so that's it for this group. Now we're going to move on to group 4. Oh, yes, we're going to move on to group 4. All right, group 4. Let's see what you've got. Now, I will start this off by saying I'm going to pan over each card as they are right side up, but I want to say in this group, both came up upside down in reverse, but I'm going to read them right side up, and I'm going to tell you what I think this all means. Okay, so we've got this beautiful temple, luminous temple, beautiful color. We've got what looks like a moon up in the sky. The detailing around this temple seems to show the caduceus in the center, which the pole with the two snakes swirling around. I'm going to talk about what that could mean. We've got a luminous doorway lit up with pure light, and it's also got powered by the energy of the water, the beautiful waterfall tumbling down. And this is number 19 or number 10 or number 1. Look at, if you wish, take a look if you're interested in the numbers, numerology of things, the positive aspects of the numbers. Take a look at Australian blog site Joann Sacred Scribes, and you will find the positive aspects if you just type in the number. You can type in 19, 9, 1, whatever you want, 0, 1, 0. But whatever the case, 19 to me is calling to take it to a 10, which could mean completion, or it could be completion and a new beginning, tied hand in hand. This says life cycles, energy, healing, and communication, okay? And we've got like a rocky foundation, and, we've got this lighter aspect, this luminous temple, almost looks like a hologram just bursting up out of the water. Seems very ethereal. Okay, now we're going to look down at the other card too as a little clarifier. We have these beautiful, I guess they're like apple blossoms, I think, or cherry blossoms. And we've got some fish swimming there. And it says new beginning. And, fish is a symbol of abundance. So are these flowers. They just keep blooming and blooming in clusters even. And I like how the color of the flowers, is echoed in the temple or vice versa. Okay. Now, they were both upside down, so just at face value, if we have something upside down talking about healing, it might mean you have a way to go for some healing. There might be some extra work to do, communication in the world around you, to get there. And with the new beginning upside down as well, it would imply that, well, you can't quite get to that new beginning if you're looking for it until you do a little more healing. Okay, and in this case, I'm feeling not a lot, just a little, and just going and flowing about your day to day, as you would, as you're guided. I'm not feeling like this is like, okay, I got to go intentionally go get help from somebody specific. I think it's like, just get out on nature. Each day that you can, get in touch with nature. If you're in a huge inner city, like the quote-unquote concrete jungle of the West in the U.S., and there's just no trees around or anything, even look for, this reminds me like the crack in the pavement where there just might be a little weed growing. Even that, just kind of, as you walk by, really focus on that one little weed or piece of shrub and just try to really connect into that. I mean, it will stand out like this, on the lake when everything's concrete, but you see a little twig or, a little thing of life popping through. So maybe just be in a heightened awareness about nature and get out in it. If you're, kind of prone to or have an affinity for water, try to get out into water and float in it if you can, or at least put your foot in a puddle, something connecting with water. Or inside, obviously a nice bath. Throw some flower petals in there if you can, to rejuvenate things, to put your intention that you want a new beginning, like spring, like life coming in. Or, just even get a little bowl of water and just put it on the table, and put an intention, throw a crystal in there, or some herbs, or like mint leaves. I was talking about making smoothies and group number 3. Maybe just throw some little fresh fruit slices in there. Or create an infused water, put some water, if you have a refrigerator, put water in it and throw some slices of fruit in there, and then drink it later with the intention that you want to bring healing and a rejuvenation, into your life so that you have a beautiful new beginning. That's just something you may want to do. Fish may be significant to you. If you see anything, symbols or things about your day-to-day with fish, that's just reminding you, look, they're all headed in the same direction. They're all encouraging you to pick up on that momentum and to keep on swimming, right? Even if things seem adverse in your life, keep on swimming. And as I mentioned a couple of piles now, a strong message coming through is to remind you to keep saying it if you don't do this already, if you need it. Just say, if a situation is seeming adverse, you say to yourself in your mind or out loud, it's happening for me, not to me. And then your outer world tends to flip on a dime, just like fish. A school of fish can just be heading this way and then flip suddenly and all track in tandem and in beautiful synchronization, and they flip the other way and start heading the other way. That's how the situation changes when you say it's happening for me, not to me. And maybe this is a good reminder, too, in that example just now, that your new beginning might involve being very flexible. So your new beginning, you might think that you need to head in a certain direction, but be open-minded and be open-hearted and be ready to receive. If you get other communication that just says, oh, you know what, time to flip around and go the other way, be like, okay, don't be fixed on any one thing. In other words, we could maybe translate this loosely as, the fish are kind of heading in water, and maybe these petals are floating. Some are floating on the water, and some maybe are submerging. So it's just a matter of being adaptable. Maybe you can float. Maybe sometimes you're going to sink. But regardless, keep going, and eventually you'll end up sitting pretty here, in a beautiful place, more beautiful than you could possibly imagine. Now, the caduceus here can be a symbol of Mercury. I've heard some interesting talk about that symbol. If you go to the radio podcast or podcast, it's called, actually go to the website, www.crow777.com, crow777radio.com, and that's spelled CRROW and then the numbers 777 radio RADIO.com. They have a lot of great podcasts in there, and one of them was looking at some of the symbolisms of different things, and one of them was this caduceus. So I think it's the symbol of Hermes or Mercury, and the snakes coming around the pole. I think one discussion of one of the guests was talking about the pole being like the poles of the earth, like the North Pole or the North Star at the top, and the snakes there, could be also talking about like the, what do I want to call it, like the tree of life and her DNA. There's lots of meanings, or the energy that swirls the planet. You might want to check into that. Use that as a springboard to dig deeper on your own into what that symbol actually means. And also just looking at the heavens here, there's a lot of talk, and not just talk, but people seeing northern lights all over the planet these days. And maybe this is just a message to, this message is kind of coming up across all the groups too. Maybe this is a call to kind of start tracking what's going on with our solar system these days up in the heavens, especially with the CMEs, the coronal mass ejections, the solar flares, and the aurora borealis or the northern lights, but also the moon. And in this card, something's really standing out with maybe checking a little more of what's going on with the moon. That might be a nice invitation to, if you're not doing it already, start checking into that with a little more detail. Because, this temple is showing a lot of detailed ornamentation, and the point on the top is pointing us heavenward to kind of maybe take a little more, just track things a little more closely with what's going on in the sky. Also, the mountain range and this picturesque, exotic setting might be a call for some of you out there to actually physically take a trip to somewhere you normally wouldn't be. This temple kind of reminds me that would be you, right? Symbolizing you standing there in all your beautiful glory, but maybe you're not, in a setting that you're so familiar with or comfortable with. It looks like that, temple just kind of dropped in or sprang up out of the water. It doesn't look like it's natural to this environment. So maybe this is a call to take your luminous self out there and go explore the world. Maybe go somewhere where there are waterfalls and beautiful rocks and trees if you're not already in that area. All right, now let's look at your little bonus card up here. And as I've said with the other groups, I hope I don't knock this little temporary set down or catch the card on fire. Let's see. Let's see what we have. It's looking beautiful. Give me a moment. There we go. Okay, wow. All of these texts today have really aligned beautifully with their messages from card to card. So here we were just showing the temple and the heavens, and we already started off with this card. It's very kind of heavenward focused, looking at the stars. And again, we've got the moon almost in the same exact position as that temple card. And we don't see as much detail, though, as the one below. But now, I think this is talking about, this is very you-centric, like the temple is you, and you're looking within, and that gorgeous light that's lighting you up. And we're getting, a close look at another luminary up there, as in the moon. But now, that seems a little more introspective, maybe, and where you're going to take yourself, and what work do you need to do to heal, and all of that, and to bring in your new beginning. It starts and ends with you. And now up here, it's like we're stepping away. We're looking at it from a zoomed out perspective, maybe looking at the bigger picture here when we see the moon, because we don't have as much detail. And that tree there, that could maybe, I don't see that as being you like the temple was. I was, kind of drawing a parallel that could be like you standing there. In this case, I think we are out here, and I'm putting myself in the same camp here. We're zoomed out looking at the bigger picture, and that tree is just maybe a focal point. Like I said in the previous card, I think the focus is maybe to be looking to the heavens and to the galaxies, the stars, the moon, and the solar flares and the northern lights, and just be a little more in touch with that, grounded like that tree is. But, pointing upward and really gazing, maybe doing some more stargazing or moon gazing if you don't do that already. Now, this gorgeous fairy is in the foreground, and from her heart, or his or her, I will just say her heart space, and she's got a beautiful wand, again, connecting in with the stars, the power of the heavens. But she's also symbolizing that the power of heavens and worlds up there is within and in the heart space and in our connection to the 3D and the earth. It's a reciprocal energy that we can, give life, and nature around us can give us life back. It's a beautiful connection, right? It's a magical connection. She's trailing stars and sparkles and orbs, which echo, again, the stars above. And it's just showing that we embody the light of the stars, right? As does plant life. When you look at plant life, when you squeeze a petal or something, if you looked at it under a microscope, it emits a flash, an electric charge. We are all electrical. And electromagnetic. Okay. Now this says number 17, fairy energy, growth, expansion, a flowering, and how appropriate, because we have the flower, below, a flowering and opening up. The new beginning can come when we open up our heart space, and that's all a part of the healing. We open up. Maybe you are somebody who is luminous and magical in your own right, like this fairy, but maybe you're not used to opening up to others. Maybe you know that you kind of have a situation maybe contained, or you're happy in your comfort zone, or you maybe don't want to tell your most, heartfelt secrets, or not even secrets, but just things that maybe wound you or your vulnerability. And this is a message to open up. And maybe instead of looking at the fairy shooting the beam down to the flower, maybe we change our perspective. That theme has come up also in some of the other groups. Start changing our perspective. Maybe if we're looking at it as this beautiful, if I can get my pointers, my finger, yeah. Maybe it's this beautiful flower that's beaming the light to the fairy, right? Because the fairy could be in a receptive mode. And if that's the case, maybe it's just a matter of receiving beautiful gifts. So maybe if you open up your own heart a little more than you used to, maybe share some things that are, hurting or wounding you, especially if you don't really have many friends around in the spiritual journey. A lot of family and friends tend to kind of disappear at certain stages of your spiritual growth. If you're in a point where you feel very isolated and alone, even though you're powerful and you know of your own right, but maybe something just doesn't seem to be quite aligning. This is an invitation to maybe share some of those troubles and things. If you can find a friend or a neighbor or somebody around who is a good listener, heck, even if it's an animal, go in nature and, speak to a flower or a tree, just sit in silence, or, some kind of animal, maybe a cat or a dog will wander up to you, or even a duck, and just, you don't have to speak with words, just through your mind in telepathy. And also asking God, source, creator, or whatever, to speak to you, or show you signs of what you might need. But more than that, I'm feeling like this is opening up to an actual person. And that might seem scary or vulnerable. But if you're in need and you feel like you need to expand and send some energy out, you can't keep it bottled up anymore, this may be your invitation to ask, or talk to a person. And if you don't know anybody, physical human around, then you can just go sit in nature maybe, or even if you just have a little plot of land where you are, go to a park or something, just go sit there for a moment. You can actually even be in a car, if you have a car with your windows open, somewhere sitting under a tree in it, but just be somewhere in silence, and then just ask for somebody, the right person, places and things to enter your life so that you can share, so you can release maybe some of the burdens. If you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world alone, go ahead and do that, okay? And that's a very powerful thing to do. And by sharing in that action, giving and receiving, it's like a never-ending, infinite connection of energy running back and forth between you and some other loving force, okay? All right, well, I think that's it for now. I hope all of you enjoyed this, and I know I did. And above all, I'm just wishing all of you tremendous peace and love. Till next time, Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.